Ethan Cole was never the loudest person in the room. He did not have the kind of face that stopped people in the middle of a sentence or the kind of laugh that filled up a whole restaurant. He was steady. He was reliable. He was the type of man who remembered what you told him 3 months ago and showed up anyway when everyone else had forgotten. To most people, those were qualities to admire. To Sienna Wade, they were qualities to take for granted. They had met 9 years ago, during their final year of university. It was raining so hard that the sky looked gray and flat, like a ceiling pressing down on the city. Sienna had run out of a lecture hall without an umbrella, and Ethan, without thinking, had held his own umbrella over her head while getting soaked himself. She had laughed and called him silly. He had smiled and called it nothing. It was not nothing. For Ethan, that was the exact moment the rest of his life quietly rearranged itself around one person. Sienna was everything Ethan was not, at least on the surface. She was magnetic. People gathered around her naturally, the way sunflowers turn toward light. She told stories that made strangers feel like old friends. She smiled and rooms shifted. Ethan fell in love with her the way people fall into deep water without realizing how far from the surface they have drifted. The problem was that Sienna never truly fell back. She liked Ethan. She really did. She liked calling him at 11 at night when a day had gone wrong. She liked that he always answered. She liked that he was patient and kind and never demanded anything. She liked how safe he made her feel. But liking someone and choosing someone are two completely different things, and Sienna never seemed to understand the distance between the two. The years moved forward. Sienna dated other men. There was a tall, confident architect she met at a rooftop party. There was a musician who had just started getting some attention online. There was Marcus Reed, the one who kept coming back. Marcus was charming and unpredictable, the kind of person who made Sienna feel like she was standing at the edge of something exciting. He also disappeared for weeks without explanation and returned with a smile that somehow made her forget what she had been upset about. Through all of it, Ethan waited. Not quietly or invisibly. He was always there. When Sienna cried over Marcus, Ethan was the one sitting across from her at a coffee shop, listening. When she moved apartments and her friends were busy, Ethan was the one carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs. When she got food poisoning on a Tuesday night, Ethan drove across the city at midnight with medicine and stayed until morning to make sure she was fine. People around them kept saying the same thing. His sister Maya said it most plainly one evening over dinner. She put down her fork, looked at her brother, and said, "Ethan, she is never going to choose you. Not because you are not enough. But because she does not have to. She already has you without choosing you." Ethan told Maya she did not understand the situation. He had been saying that for years. He gave her everything she needed without asking for anything in return. And she gave him just enough hope to keep him staying. Year 7 came the way all turning points come. Not with drama. Not with a big argument or a moment of revelation. It came on a quiet Thursday afternoon when Sienna called Ethan to tell him, in a calm and almost cheerful voice, that she and Marcus were getting back together. Again. For the 4th time. She told him as though she were sharing good news. She even asked if he was happy for her. Ethan sat very still on the other end of the phone. He looked out his apartment window at the street below. A woman was walking a small dog. A deliveryman was locking his bicycle to a pole. Everything outside looked completely ordinary. Inside, something in Ethan finally stopped moving. He did not raise his voice. He did not say anything cruel. He simply said, "I hope it works out for you, Sienna." And then he said, "I need to step back from this friendship." She laughed a little, confused, assuming he was being dramatic. He was not being dramatic. When she texted him that night, he did not reply. When she called the next morning, he let it ring. When she showed up at his apartment 2 days later with coffee and a confused expression, he opened the door, looked at her gently, and said, "I cared about you for a very long time. But I cannot keep being the person you come to in between the life you actually want. I deserve more than that. So do you." He closed the door. Not angrily. Just firmly. Like a man who had finally made a decision he should have made years ago. What happened next is the part of this story that no one who knew Ethan during those 7 years could have fully predicted. He went to work. For the past 3 years, quietly and mostly alone, Ethan had been building a software platform on the side. It was a logistics system designed to help small businesses track inventory and manage deliveries more efficiently. Most people who knew about it treated it the way you treat a friend's hobby. They nodded politely. They said things like, "That sounds interesting," and then changed the subject. Ethan had kept building it anyway, in the hours after work, on weekends, on evenings when other people were out having dinner or watching television. After Sienna, those evening hours became the entire evening. Then they became the morning before work, and the lunch break, and eventually they became the full day because 3 months after he walked away from Sienna, Ethan quit his corporate job and committed to his platform completely. His savings were limited. His apartment was small. There were weeks when he was genuinely uncertain about the future. But he had something he had not had in 7 years, complete clarity. He was no longer pouring his energy into someone who would never fully receive it. All of that energy was his now, and he used every bit of it. 18 months after he walked away from Sienna, a venture capital firm reached out. A woman named Diana Chen had seen a presentation Ethan had given at a small industry event. She sat in the back row, asked 3 precise and intelligent questions afterward, and requested a meeting the following week. Ethan spent the entire weekend preparing. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Diana agreed to invest before the week was over. She was not like anyone Ethan had met before. She was sharp and direct and had a way of seeing through unnecessary words to the thing that actually mattered. She respected his time and expected him to respect hers. She did not flatter him or keep him guessing. When she thought something he said was wrong, she told him so. When she thought something was brilliant, she said that too. Ethan found the honesty startling at first, and then deeply refreshing. For the first time in his life, someone was giving him what he had spent 7 years giving away to someone else. Clear, steady, honest presence. Their working relationship deepened slowly. There was nothing rushed about it. Diana was not the kind of person who made impulsive decisions, in business or in life. Ethan was not the kind of person who trusted easily anymore. But over months of late evenings working through growth strategies and early mornings reviewing data, something real began to form between them. Not the kind of love that arrives all at once and overwhelms everything. The kind that builds quietly, like a strong structure, until one day you realize it has been there for a while and you cannot imagine the view without it. The company scaled. What had started in Ethan's small apartment became an office, then 2 offices, then a team of 40 people, then 100. The platform was adopted by businesses across the country. Industry publications started writing about it. Ethan's name appeared in places it had never appeared before. Sienna found out the same way most people find out about things now. She was scrolling through her phone one evening and saw a photograph. Ethan, in a dark suit, standing at a podium at a business conference. The caption beneath the photo said something about his company being recognized as one of the fastest-growing technology businesses in the country. She stared at the photo for a long time. He looked different. Not physically. He had the same face, the same eyes. But there was something in the way he stood, something settled and certain that she did not recognize. She clicked on the article. She read it to the end. Then she sat back and looked at the ceiling of her apartment for a while. Marcus had left again. This time it felt more final, less like a pause and more like an ending. Sienna was 31 years old, sitting alone in an apartment that felt too quiet, reading about the men she had spent 7 years treating as a comfortable option. She thought about calling him. She opened her phone and found his name. But she looked at it for a moment and then put the phone face down on the table. She already knew the answer before she asked the question. Some doors, once you close them through your own carelessness, do not open again from the outside. She was right. The evening that made everything completely clear came 6 months later. A mutual friend invited Sienna to an industry gala, the kind of event where the city's most successful people gathered in a large, beautifully lit room and pretended the conversations were casual. Sienna went because she needed a night out and because the friend had insisted. She did not know Ethan would be there. She saw him from across the room before he saw her. He was standing with a small group of people, and he was laughing at something, a real laugh, the kind that reaches the eyes. And beside him, with her hand lightly resting on his arm, was a woman Sienna did not recognize. Tall, composed, the kind of person who looked completely comfortable in any room she walked into. She said something to Ethan and he turned to her and smiled, not the polite social smile people wear at events, but a private, genuine smile, the kind that only appears when you are with someone you actually feel at ease with. Sienna stood very still. She had seen Ethan smile thousands of times over 7 years. She had never seen him smile quite like that. He noticed her eventually. Their eyes met across the room. He gave her a small, polite nod. The nod of someone who knows you, who holds no anger toward you, who simply has moved a great distance from where you last stood together. Then he turned back to his conversation. That was it. No long look. No hesitation. No sign that the sight of her caused him to feel anything that needed to be managed. The most complete form of moving on is not hating someone. It is feeling nothing that disrupts you. It is being so full in your own life that the person who once consumed your thoughts becomes someone you simply remember. Later that evening, the event host made an announcement. Ethan's company had just been valued at over $1 billion. The room applauded. Ethan raised a small glass in acknowledgement, said a few gracious words, and thanked the people who had believed in him. He thanked his team. He thanked Diana. He did not look toward Sienna when he spoke. Sienna applauded with everyone else. She was not sure what else to do. She left the event early and walked home because she needed the air. The city was busy around her, full of noise and light and people moving in every direction. She thought about the version of herself who had held that umbrella he offered in the rain and laughed and called him silly. She thought about every phone call she had made to him at midnight. Every box he had carried. Every difficult conversation he had sat through. Every time she had walked toward Marcus and assumed Ethan would still be there when she came back. She thought about the look on his face at the gala. How peaceful it was. How complete. She did not feel sorry for herself that night. Feeling sorry for yourself requires believing that something was done to you. Sienna understood, walking home through the busy streets, that nothing had been done to her. She had made choices, small and large, for 7 years. Those choices had consequences. That was all. She stopped at a corner and waited for the light to change. A couple walked past her, close together, talking quietly. She watched them cross the street. She took a breath and kept walking. Ethan and Diana announced their engagement on a Sunday morning. There was no grand public statement. Diana put a single photograph on her personal page. The two of them at a small wooden table somewhere quiet, coffee cups in front of them, both laughing at something just outside the frame. The caption simply said, "Him." Ethan's sister Maya called him the moment she saw it. She was crying before he even picked up the phone. "I always knew," she said, "I always knew you were going to be okay." Ethan laughed and told her she had also always told him the truth, even when he did not want to hear it, and he was grateful for that. Maya laughed through her tears and told him to stop being so reasonable and just let her be happy for him. He let her. This is a true story in the way that the most important stories are true. Not because every name is a real name or every detail can be verified. But because the shape of it is real. The pattern of it is real. The man who gives and gives until he finally understands his own value is real. The woman who confuses availability with certainty is real. The slow, quiet rise that happens when a person stops asking someone else to measure their worth and starts measuring it themselves is very, very real. Ethan Cole did not become a billionaire because Sienna Wade did not choose him. He became one because he finally chose himself. That is the part people miss when they hear stories like this. They focus on the ending, the success, the gala, the announcement, the person who regrets. But the real story is not in any of those moments. The real story is a man sitting alone in a small apartment on a Thursday night, with a closed door behind him and an open laptop in front of him, deciding that his life was going to mean something. He did not know it would turn out the way it did. He only knew that it had to be different. And that was enough to begin. Some people only realize what they had when they watch it flourish for someone else.